children can't even lift their head, can't they? So, and then they're walking by age 1. So it's quite amazing. So week 2, here we go. This week, we're going to be covering the information, and then we're on a PowerPoint, and then we are going to be doing a Kahoots, just like always. To follow, we will be doing a quiz. The first couple of questions are from last week that we've already reviewed, already Kahoots, that you should be good about. And then you have some questions on this week. Don't worry, I think you're all going to be really good when it comes down to it. So let's start with our PowerPoint. Did everybody find the recording on the YouTube channel that needed to? Okay, good. Because remember, there's PNR and then there's NUR. So they're just different, but they're very similar too, to tell you the truth. I've been teaching RN pediatrics for many years, and I'm actually sort of excited to teach the group of students that are future LPNs that taught me how to be a nurse when I first started. Because without an LPN, I wouldn't be what I am today. So thank you for you being who you are already before you get there, okay? So here we go, talking about physical development, and we're talking about now the preschool child. Now, preschoolers are ages 3 to 5. This is the time where their birth weight should be quadruple by age 3. So 7 pounds by age 3, they should be 28 pounds. Doesn't mean they're all there, but it is a guideline to follow through for you. We know that they get taller, they lose their pudginess, they get all of their baby teeth in, their primary teeth, and now they've got really good muscle control. You will be able to see by this age, are they right-handed or left-handed? My grandson, we didn't know what he'd be because he throws with his right hand, but he does things with his left. Well, he is a lefty. Now we know he does right with his left hand, and that's what he wants, but he still throws with the right hand. So these are things that we start to learn then. We know that he becomes, and all of them, more adept as they keep going through because they have more coordination. So Piaget is the preconceptual from 2 to 4 and intuitive thought by ages 5 to 7, which means they're starting to learn how to think more and more and more. Their language becomes more developed. They're able to have 2-word sentences by age 2. And they're also, as a preschooler, they are still egocentric, but they're not as bad as a toddler. Now, toddlers are me, mine, mood swings, and they scream and yell. They just don't understand other people. They don't want to listen and think, you're right and I'm wrong. I want to do it this way, not your way. So you'll see them fighting now because now they have ability to communicate also. They're also taking their little stuffed toys and think they're real beings and don't throw them on the floor and, petting the bears and the dolls and whatever. They're starting, that's called animism there. And they're also looking at, like, for instance, the clouds. It looks like a big lamb up there. So it's artificialism, things of certain shapes. It could be something. A broom, could be a riding horse. I mean, they do all different stuff out there. And their minds are thinking, becoming really creative, right? And this is Piaget, cognitive thinking, putting things together. Pre-logical thinking, they're starting to take words, images, ideas, and they're making play. Ever listen to a child who's playing and they put their arms out and they're running around the room going, zoom, zoom. This is just part of, they know that's what an airplane sounds like, and I'm going to imitate it, okay? It's taken, a stick off the ground and they're going to play Star Wars, or they're going to play whoever, it's a knife. I'm going to come get you. And they're all about now. They don't understand really a lot more about tomorrow yet, but they're focusing on what can I do now. It doesn't matter. I don't want to do it after my nap. I want it now. Now, cultural always makes a difference in a child and the way they're raised. Many cultures are differently. It shapes work, it shapes play, it shapes how you would talk and listen to each other, or how, if you're in preschool, the respect, all of those things now come from the culture of the family. Because remember, the family is the one constant. It is all about family-centered care. And what does a preschooler know? Just their family. They don't really know well other people besides that. Now, some delays can happen, and we're starting to see them, at this age. If they're not talking 2 words by 2 years, if they are not wanting to play with other children, if they're on their own, or don't look at you in your eyes, something's going on. Okay, that could be the first understanding the child could be autistic. Those are some of the behaviors you see. You'll also see that child who has ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They literally do not finish a task. They go from one thing to another thing to another thing, and they don't finish anything. And they're running in circles, and it can be frustrating. And if we let this go on, it's going to end up, this child's going to go to preschool and kindergarten. They're not going to be able to sit in a chair, and it's going to cause disruption in the classroom. So they need a lot of the same thing, same time every day. They need schedules, they need order in their lives, and they feel much better with it. Now, some of these delays that they could have is because of something happened when they were kids. Could have been a meningitis, or it could have been like prematurity and hypoxemia, that can happen with that. Could be drugs, poverty, malnutrition. I mean, these are all realities of life. So, we know that these delays, we usually see them by the way they act, but it's the language and how they speak also that we can tell them. Now, bedtime. Now, bedtime can be the worst time or it can be the fun time with a parent. I know that many children have a really hard time with bedtime, and they want another glass of water, and I have to go pee, and I want to hug daddy again, and read me another book, and all of these things can go on. So having a ritual is, they'll know that this is what has to come next. So have the child engage in quiet activities before bedtime. They shouldn't be, in a very busy game, playing a game that, has their mind going. They shouldn't be outside running around crazy, but maybe sitting, watching a little movie or a little something before they go to bed, or sitting there and reading 2 books with mommy, can help. And, this is an important thing with children, that they have this bedtime ritual, and then they get rewards. They have mom and dad, or mom or dad, or both, having their attention completely, doing things together, and then they'll go to bed because they know once the book is done, you close it, you give them a kiss, you cover them, you leave the nightlight on or whatever they like, and then you can leave. Now, I've always said play, play, play. I went to work for 20-odd years working pediatrics. And yes, I worked mostly in intensive cares and ER, but every day I went to work to play. And I got paid for playing with children. Was it all play, though? There's a lot going on, but I always made the best of it and had fun with the kids as much as I could to distract them from what was going on, because some of them were extremely ill. Now, kids, normally, you get them together, and you'll see the 3-year-old. Most of all, 3-year-olds will have parallel play. You'll have them next to each other, playing with toys, but not paying attention to each other, basically. Associative play, it could be like this picture. They're all together building blocks, but all disorganized, and there's no goal there at all. They're just having fun putting blocks together, and knocking each other's over and making one cry, and the normal things 3 years old do. But then there's cooperative play. And this is 2 or more children that say, okay, let's build a castle. Now we've created something. As they get older and can play games, it could be older kids saying, sitting at a board game, playing checkers, or playing, pop the little thing, sorry. There's always a finish to it. So if there is a goal, it is associative. By 3 years old, children can do the little household chores. They can pick up their clothes and putting them in their laundry basket. These are simple tasks. Bring them to the laundry mat, the laundry room to do laundry. That could be household chores for them. It's not going to be, mopping the floor and dusting and that, but little things. And it gives them, that feeling of helping. Also, that mom and dad, they want to also please at this age too. So those chores are good. There is a fear of dark always, the big bad monster's coming. There's also fear of loss of body parts. They think that something's going to hurt and they're going to chop their arm or leg off. And if they bleed, they're going to bleed out. This is Band-Aid age, right? Band-Aid cures everything on a preschooler. And then they come angry when other people take the toy that they're playing with. It's mine. And that becomes a problem like in your daycares where there's all these toys there and they've taken one toy and they want that to be theirs, but it isn't theirs and they have to learn sharing. Pretty hard. Now, the 4-year-old is someone who wants to do things for themselves. What it says is more aggressive because they want to show off their skills. They want to be able to use scissors, their type of scissors, of course, because I can do that now and I can be careful. And I can have a knife with my food now because I know how to use it, right? Their vocabulary is increasing and they're also like putting things together and making things. I know at age 4, I made my kid, I took a crate. Actually, I think it was a case of something. And we took pieces of paper and we put it on the outside and we put numbers on it and we put black wheels on the bottom and put a hole where he could see in. For Halloween, my grandson was a race car and he put this box over his head and went from house to house. And he thought he was the coolest thing on the planet because it's that raw material that he put together as a toy. And he thought it was the best thing ever. They like stories, but they like to know, what's the ending, something that they can understand with. And they're starting to understand death now, whether somebody in the family has died or, mom and dad or, your best friends talking about. They start to hear and listen that death's there and they're going to start asking questions. Well, what does that mean? 5-year-old, they're more responsible. They should be able to bathe themselves, dress themselves. I mean, of course, they need supervision at 5 years old still. They're still asking questions. They want to know about everything. They want to learn. And sometimes they'll even, I already know everything. Well, you don't know everything yet. You know what you know so far. They should at least be able to ride a tricycle. They should be able to use hammers. My grandson could take a little screw and take a back of a battery pack off, a little screw, take it out, get batteries, put it in. These are things that they should be able to do. They should be able to work a TV and computer games. I think any at this age who's had access to mom's phone knows how to get to YouTube and watch YouTube videos. I think it's crazy that I had a 2- and 3-year-old who could take my phone and get to places that I couldn't even get to. They're smart and they learn quickly. The problem is they need limits for their behaviors. If I gave my grandson the cell phone, he'd play for it all day long, from wake up to go to bed. And that's not good. They need to still be out exploring the world outside. They still need to be reading. They still need to be practicing their letters, their colors, their numbers, and all of those things. Now, they have to learn self-control too. They can have one of these out of mind, out of body, like screaming matches, right? So what if they have a tantrum in the middle of the grocery store, right? That's the best place. And they go on the ground and the arms or legs are going and they're crying. What should you do? You should walk away as long as they are not in danger. Because if you pay attention, that's what they want. They want you to pay attention to that behavior because they want what they want when they want it. Now, timeout, different thing. You're at home, they do something they're not supposed to do, or they're not listening, you put them on timeout. How long should that be? It should be 1 minute per years of age. And they need to understand why they're going on timeout, what they did wrong, what are the rules. You need to stop crying and be quiet, and it's 3 minutes. You're going to be on timeout for doing that. And that's how you put a child on timeouts. Now, rewards. It's, child does something good, brings the laundry to you because he sees you starting to do it before you ask. That big hug, or come on, let's get a cookie, you get one. Yeah, I know, I told you we weren't getting one, but you know something? You did something good. Let's go give you 1 cookie, not 2 though. And they understand that. They're like, really? And it really wants them to do good behavior. And always consistency. You can't have one parent one way, one parent the other, and you can't keep changing things because these children will not understand. Now, thumb sucking, we know oral, they explore the world, right? Piaget says that. Sensor and motor. It's in the mouth, and even Freud. In the mouth, it calms them. It's how they relieve their stress. They explore through the world, all their toys in there. Now, this is something that babies all of a sudden find a finger or thumb and they put it in there. Now, it is okay, unless they have their permanent teeth, because then it can malform the front of their teeth, and then they're going to need braces in the end, which you don't want. But how do you get that stopped? Well, if they're older, it's going to be that praise. It's going to be that encouragement. And we know anytime a child gets stressed or upset, they're going to go back to that self-soothing, which is what? Finger, thumb in the mouth. My daughter was this finger, that way. And she did it up to 5 or 6 years old, but we got it out just enough time that she didn't have it there for permanent teeth. Now, bedwetting. Now, bedwetting can be certain different things. Now, it could be a child who has never bedwetted, and all of a sudden they start to bedwet, let's say at age 8. Well, it could be due to something. So if this is a child who's never bedwetted who starts, you need to check out, is it a urinary tract infection? Because they can't hold it, got to keep coming out. Diabetes, whether mellitus or insipidus, and we're going to tell you what those differences are there. Seizures, problems with their urinary, and could be some sleep disorders. Could be they get these night frights where they could have this urine. So it's more common in boys than girls. And bedwetting is, again, the secondary is the one that we look for the organic causes. The primary, the kid's always urinating, right? So we know this is a constant. So we're going to put a pull-up on them, right? Or we're going to be changing the bed every night. So nursing care. Well, ask a question. Has your child always bedwetted, or did they just start? When were they potty trained? How long has it been? And then, when are they urinating? Is it 3 o'clock in the morning when they're deep at sleep? Is it first thing in the morning? First thing when you go to bed? Really important. Number of times a night or week. And then, how do they urinate during the day? Are they having any problems with urinating? And then, of course, if we're giving them a lot of something to drink right before the bed. Now, it could be familiar. I mean, mom could have been the one who's a bedwetter, or dad, and now this child is too. So it could be. And remember, stress. Stress can do a lot of things in children. It regresses them. What do you do when you're younger? You urinate in a diaper, right? So they forget to get up. And medications can cause this. So child needs to have his liquids limited before, like right after dinner, sometimes before, depending on how severe this child's enuresis is. And remember, this is all about the child, and the child needs to understand what's going on. Have them active, saying, Mom, I'm gonna go pee pee before I go to bed, or whatever you call it, so that you know that they have and they're a part of it. There's all sorts of treatment options. I mean, you could be that parent that just is okay, let's go stop your fluids, let's, pee pee before you go to bed, or maybe when later on I wake up, I'm going to pick you up, put you on the toilet to make you go pee, or you could do counseling, hypnosis, behavior modification. There are medications that stop you from urinating. And then, of course, bladder training exercises where you make them hold it an extra minute or two before they need to pee. So that is now making the bladder bigger. Preschool programs are good. Preschool programs are just not daycare. They're going there, they're learning things, it's structured. It does develop working in a group. It's also being able to sit, right, and listening to a teacher. And it has to do with dealing with the other kids, that coping skill. So it's good. And the child gains a lot. I'm able to write my 1, 2, 3. I knew all the colors today. And of course, there's a lot of positive self-esteem given by teachers in the preschool age, because that nurtures them to want to do even better next time. So do not require extensive care, these children, but they really need to bathe every day and shampoo their hair at least twice a week. My grandson, he likes to shower every night before he goes to bed. That's just him. And he knows he's going to do it. And sometimes he's like, yeah, no. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just rinse off. And he's okay with that. The clothes should be loose enough. They don't like tight clothes on them. It needs to, they be able to run and play and roll on the floor and do what they need. So you need it to be washable. You need it's going to last for a while. And of course, they need good shoes. Always unintentional injuries, accidents are always a big thing. And when we're looking at accidents, one of the highest on the level of all age children is motor vehicle accidents. It could be that they were not in their booster seat or their car seat, or it was inappropriately placed in the car, or they're not in one, or they're run over by a car. I've seen several children in my career, I think it was 3 of them, ran over by a car. One by the next door neighbor, one by an aunt, and the other one I don't remember. And I know that one didn't do well, but the other 2, one of them walked away and the other one had a broken bone, which could have been a lot more if you think about a car running over you. So it does happen. They do get burns. They like to pull things off the stove or get up there and look at it, or they put their hand or try to eat something before it's not cool enough. It's just part of what they do. They have everything right in their mouth. So poisoning, getting into underneath the kitchen sinks, all of these things. So if we sit and talk to these children, let them know what's going on, tell them about the dangers of, those poisons, telling them about being outside if mom or dad, look the other way. Nobody needs to come up and grab them, because that kid's going to learn how to just run and scream at the top of their lungs, because stranger, danger, right? So at this age, between 3 to 5, they need to be taught those things. Now, everybody is a good person like mom and dad and all of the family that you do know. So they do need supervision, because sometimes they don't think good. This is the age of imaginary playmates. And these children love to talk to that person, especially if they're home alone or an only child, and they're going to want to play. I see, children all ages will sit there and have toys or dolls or teddy bears, and they're talking to them and putting them to sleep. And, it's just part of their escape. And it does relieve them from that loneliness, right? It is that person, that partner that they wanted around. So it is a good thing at this age. Now, if it's a school age child with imaginary playmate, it could be some sort of mental illness. So these children in the preschool age really need to conform now to, the rules of school and getting them ready for kindergarten. Also, they're going to be, sometimes these children have to go to the hospital for many different reasons. So they need some sort of alternate method of discipline. Now, it could be taking a privilege away, or not going to a place where you normally go, to the park on Saturday or whatever, so that they know that there's consequences for actions. Now, hospitalization can be scary. Remember, they don't like people in uniforms or people that have inflicted pain on them before. They don't. So these children get to the hospital, and now mommy has to go to work. Somebody's got to pay the bills, right? Or there's 4 other kids at home that need mom to take care of them, and they're single parents. So what are you going to do with that, right?
Now.
So there are something called separation anxiety, when mom or dad or any caregiver cannot be at the bedside with your child. It's called protest, despair, detachment, and regression. Now, the protest is they're yelling, they're crying, they're screaming, they're upset. And then all of a sudden they get angry, a little bit withdrawn, and then they become detached, where it's like, okay, mom's not here, so I'm going to do what I want to do. And then they realize mom's not there, then they stuck their thumb again, right? Or they start doing those earlier behaviors. Even bedwetting could be something that could be done when they're in the hospital and now they're in that regression time. So some important nursing assessments that includes when you have to look at the kid, right? Sometimes it's a lot of visual. Now, how does a kid play? Do they play alone? Do they play with another child? Do they play to make a goal? Or do they look at you? Also, do they like other kids around? Or they like that quiet, or they're only with their little imaginary playmates? And attention spans. These are all things that those observations can help lead to, maybe it's a child who needs speech therapy because they don't talk well and they don't want to be around other kids because they don't understand them when they're talking. Or is this a kid who's autistic that needs speech therapy and occupational therapy and physical therapy? And here's a nice little screening tool, the Denver Developmental Screening Tool. Now, this just says that they need help. It doesn't mean that this is going to be something that is screened, okay? And now your school age children. School age, ages 6 to 12. So now they're into magical powers and they want to do good things. And they're into all of the Disney movies, right? The Pirates of the Caribbean, they want to be a pirate. They want to be Snow White. They want to wear Beauty and the Beast. They want Belle's beautiful dress, right? They're starting to have a peer relationship. Now, school age is same-sex peers most of the time. And these are the first time that somebody other than the family is their best friend most of the time. Because usually before that is your cousin or your aunt, uncle, maybe they're younger that you're getting along with, but as a friend. But now it's somebody else out of the family. And as a school ager, there is, as Erickson say, a sense of industry inferiority. Now, industry is what a child does well. Now, there's some children who spell well or write well, or they may be that kid outside who can kick the ball well or run faster. I mean, every child does something well, but not every child can do everything well. So what they can't do is their inferiority. So the industry is what they do well, and that gives them that self-esteem. And that's what they like to show their peers, what they can do well. They don't want to do things that they don't do well because that's the inferiority side. So now they're starting to learn to write and read, and now they're understanding. And they also can wait. So you do well all week in school, and as a first grader, you still might get some smile faces, working up, or you get A's and B's on your homework all week long. We'll go to a movie on Saturday. That's your delayed reward, right? Something we'll do because you've done what you needed to do. And another thing is, sometimes, like, video games, kid wants to master it and, win the first time. Well, they can't. Okay, they have to continue to try. And that's frustrating. They don't want to. And they get this fear of trying because they're going to die. So you have to encourage them. It's okay. That's the way you learn. Figure it out. You can do it. So as I said, Erickson, state of industry, and that's what they do well. In sexual latency, it's same-sex peers now. That's what Freud talks about, and learning characteristics from another family. And Piaget is starting where they have, for instance, it's taking objects of similarities and putting them together and getting collections. Like if this child liked Snow White, they'd have Snow White dress, Snow White games, Snow White posters, Snow White, everything, Snow White games on their little iPads. Everything is Snow White. It's that collection, whether it's shells or coins or dolls or teddy bears. It's the same thing are now collections. And they get that they all are alike. Their physical growth, again, is still slow. It doesn't get faster until they go to pre-adolescence and they have this growth spurt. But 6 to 12 is very slow until puberty. The end of school age is puberty, when puberty starts, about age 12. They gain more weight than getting higher, and their brain is almost the size of an adult. But even if a school-age kid looks intelligent, remember, what is their age? They're only 7, because you have some young girls and boys that look like they're older. Make sure you know who you're talking to get on their developmental level, okay? Their muscular coordination is improved. They're going to be playing Little League and soccer and all of these things, and more competitively, than the younger ages. And their center of gravity is lower, so they're really coordinated. Now, the first teeth in the mouth is lost by about age 6. So by 6th Christmas, it's going to be all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth, right? So that's when they're going to come out. You should have 4 permanent teeth erupt per year. Now their GI tract gets a lot better, more mature. Remember, the infant couldn't have any food till 6 months. And then slowly we're introducing foods to them. And then, they're able to eat different things, more things, spicier things, because it's getting more mature. They can eat more because their stomachs are bigger. And because they're not as much in motion as the preschoolers were, the calorie need is less. I mean, a preschooler needs about 1,800 calories a day. That's about what they need. So it's actually quite a bit for a small child. and their heart grows slowly, and it's now more in proportion to the body. Younger, the heart takes up a lot of the chest with the lungs. It's small. Now it's getting bigger. It's taking up that space now. And just like I said with, physical growth, size does not correlate with emotional maturity, as in just because they look like they're older, please note that a 6 or 7-year-old is still, someone who needs to be treated on a different level than a 11 or 12-year-old. So remember that when we're talking to them as nurses. And then sometimes you have kids that are bigger, heavier, or shorter or taller. The kids that are tall, they call them Johnny Green Bean, or just different names. Or if they're pudgy, some of the kids can tease them. This is going to happen with it because they're a little different than everybody else. I still remember in 6th grade being one of the shortest kids in class. Then all of a sudden in 7th grade, I was not. I gained over that summer, but again, that's that pre-adolescent growth spurt. Gender identity. So sex roles are developed by parents, and we know that whether if you live in whatever family it is, 2 parents that are 2 women, 2 men, 1 of each, a grandma, grandpa, it's, that's developed through the family. Also, though, you see TV, what do women do? What do men do? And they're starting to know what those roles are. So school environment, we know that notoriously boys tend to have more aggressive behavior than girls. It's just, and it's expected, although it doesn't mean it's allowed, okay? And we know that, being masculine or being feminine, dressing cool as a boy or as a girl, cute bows, cute barrettes, cute whatever, it's going to be that masculine or that femininity. Now with school, parents should always set realistic goals. Some kids are going to be readers. Some kids are going to be that kid who writes well, and some kids are going to go numbers, and they're not going to know everything well. It's just be realistic with it, and if they need help, give them that little help, but you can't push them too hard because they're just going to turn off against you. So make sure that they're there on time, not missing schools, because they're going to be very, not only them, the teachers are aware that they're not in school, which could lead to problems, but also that these children will be alone, depressed. And when we start seeing changes in children's behavior, we should really be encouraged to say, what's going on with you? It could be something at home. It could be, a breakup of a marriage. It could be there's a new baby in the house and they feel alone. It could be many different things. Always talk to your children about school problems, feelings, and any concern that they're in. And homework is everybody's, today they come home with these 5 pages of homework to do. It is the child's responsibility to get it done. It is the parent's responsibility to make sure that they get it done. Did you do your homework yet? Set up, time, what they need to do. Now, sexuality with school-age children is really important. Now, they've got all of these different sort of terms and words, and I was looking at all these things and I'm like, I didn't know all of them. But, if a child's going to say a word you don't understand, I'm going to say, what does that mean? I don't understand that meaning. But make sure the child understands if they're saying a word that's not nice, that they know it's not nice. Oh my God, my grandson, he would say, oh my God, all the time. And I don't like that. You say, oh my goodness, or oh my gosh, I don't like it. So it's the things you need to teach your children. 6 years old. Now, 6 years old are getting more energetic. They're on their go. They like to do things, but they get distracted and don't always complete them. Sometimes they Sleep 11 to 13 hours a day. You know, they love their sleep so that they can function well. And when they're talking now, it isn't just talking about this, that, and the other. They're telling you things that's gone on in the day, what they need, or what their expectations, or what do they want to do, or what happened, or, you know, they'll talk to you about things that's a purpose. And look at their vocabulary now. It's getting really expanded. They can complete paragraphs and really tell you what's going on in their lives. You don't say, what do you mean there? Again, it's same-sex peers playing together, but doesn't mean it's all the time. It just means that is usually the preference. Going to school is hard. It is getting up, it's going to a routine, it's going to bed early, it's doing homework, it's being around other kids, somebody else telling them what to do, eating their lunch or bringing your lunch, you know, and only have this much time to eat it. It's really hard, you know. So as parents, they should be told to watch for that fatigue and stress, because it is stressful 5 days a week. I mean, most nurses only want to work 3 days a week, right? So this is a child going from 8 in the morning till when can you pick them up after work, right? And the one thing I've always said about anything, whether it's a daycare or school, it's that exposure to infectious diseases, whether it's the toddler, you know, toys in the mouth, you know, swapping spit, as I call it, or is it, you know, those children coughing and, you know, having nasal secretion. So again, parents should be encouraged for those immunizations. 7-year-old, these children really have high standards. They want to do the best that they can do. They are more modest. Again, they don't want to get dressed in front of people. So as a nurse, you should give them the time to get undressed, to put in a gown so they don't feel like they're showing themselves. They do have a great sense of humor, and they like to be crazy active, but they like to sit down and rest for a moment too. At this age, they know the seasons of the year, and they know January, February, March, April, and they're starting to understand concepts of math. 2 plus 22 plus 22. Now, doesn't mean kids earlier don't. As I said, my grandson at age 4 was telling me these crazy things in math, and I'm like, where did you learn that? And of course, it was a YouTube channel that was teaching him math stuff. His hands are steadier, and play is really important, and being independent. I'm going to do it myself. 8-year-olds want to do everything. They play alone for longer times, and they're more creative. They love going to groups, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, soccer, whatever, gymnastics. They love that, and they're creative with it. Also, they are better when they're out and better company for the family. And now they have a hero, whether it's one of the superheroes, Batman, you know, whoever it is, they do have heroes. Now, at this time, their arms and legs are growing more. Whether they were shorter because the legs were short, arms are short, now they're growing. The trunk's not as big as it used to be. So they're becoming more coordinated than ever. Their muscles are developed. They love competitive sports. They love to argue with each other. And the one thing they need to learn how to show their anger in a way that's acceptable for whether a teacher or with other children even. Your 9-year-old is dependable. They want to do more with the family, and they have more responsibility. It could be getting their clothes and putting them away. It could be making their beds, you know, changing their sheets, many of these things, doing more responsibility, doing those tasks. And when they do something wrong, they're going to be able to accept it better than earlier. And these worries and mild compulsions are common. They get worried about things like, is daddy going to be on time so I can get to here? Or I'm just going to go ahead and do this now because I want to get it done. And that's like your compulsions. Again, the hand-eye coordination is very well developed, and they are really that child who can really do different activities. They can be shown what to do, they can do it, and they manage it very, very well. About 10 hours sleep at this time is what they need, so less than your preschoolers. Permanent teeth are still coming in. They end at puberty, so there's through 6 through 12, they're all coming in. And they really love competitive sports and they love winning. And also, when they're playing sports, they need to know they're riding their bike, they need their helmet on. Or if they're riding their skateboard, they need to have their knee protectors or their wrist protectors. They need to know those safety devices. Now, 10 years old, they're starting to call the pre-adolescent period. As I said, this is the time right before puberty, okay? Girls mature quicker than boys. Usually it's 2 years. So, you know, by the age of 12, boys are 10 years old in their maturity. So if they're 10, they're like 8 years old. So they do physically and emotionally mature more than boys. They're starting to be able to say, well, I want to do this. I want to play this sport. I want to do this aftercare thing. I want to go to this movie. They know what they want to be, and that independence. They are starting to be able to work as a group and function as one. They're understanding other children's, what they want to do. And now, of course, always sexuality always continues. They're still wondering what it is. Girls are poised more than boys. As I said, they're more emotionally and physically mature. They are using slang because that's what all the kids do, right? And, you know, they're always identifying themselves with what their sex role is. Most children, you know, the girls want to be pretty. They want to have their hair done. They want their clothes just right. You know, the hair, like what the style is, if it's short or it's long. More interest in their personal appearance, you know, bathing, washing their hand, their face, their teeth, etc. And they're knowing abstract numbers now. So they're knowing how to work with the real and unreal numbers, as I call them. And then the 11 to 12-year-olds, they are intense, observant, and energetic. It's hard to keep up with these kids. They are busy, busy, busy. They're also very argumentative and they're meddlesome, which means they get in between, they hear things and they want to know what's going on. And part of that is that hormone, right? They are pre-puberty. So that hormones start going up. So at this age, they're almost into teenagers. They need to have some sort of relaxation of the rules, but within limits. They need to be given responsibilities, but again, with limits. So 11 and 12-year-olds, they are concerned with their appearance. So I don't like that one that says there, but they are preoccupied and they do like to be in groups and function together. And now they're starting to see, you know, I'm getting little boobies, right? They're starting to see they're getting taller, they're getting a little curve. They're starting to see these things. Again, they need that freedom. And they know why parents make a decision, as in, we can't go to the movies this week because of whatever they need to say, whether I don't have the money, I didn't get the overtime, or we have to go to this baby shower instead. They get it, they understand it. And they will ignore you if you are constantly nah, 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 nah. They don't want to hear it, so they turn it off. And we know that chores are good teaching tool for this age because they are going to become adults. They are going to move out of the house. They're going to have to know how to cook, how to do laundry. So guidance and health supervision and health examinations. Now, usually at age 12, we are going to be given their physicals before school, right? And usually before kindergarten, first grade, all the way, they're given that annual type of review here. Always they need to be screened for hearing and vision and language. We know hearing and language go together. Can't hear good, your speech isn't going to be good. So looking for those learning disabilities. And why do we need to know these things? Well, children, they're so resilient. If we figure out they have a problem in speech or they have a problem with hearing, if we correct it quickly, they catch up to the other children. And then they're not going to become adults who cannot do things because they couldn't hear or speak earlier. Another thing is knowing about their physical activity so that they know that their bodies is ready for those sort of things. So children who are sick, remember getting on their level and telling them what's going on and explain their sickness is what they need. But remember, keep it simple. They don't know big words. So if it's something like, and I'll give you a great example, many school-age children get appendicitis and they need their appendix out. And I know I have sat down next to many of them when I worked in the emergency room, and I would give them a hug and I say, listen, in your intestines, there's this extra piece of tissue there. And sometimes it says, I really don't want to be here anymore. And that's why you have your pain down there on the right lower side. So the doctor's just going to go into your belly button, take a peek, and take it out. And it's nothing you did wrong. It's nothing you did bad. It's not that you punched your sister yesterday because they think they're being punished by God. There's none of that. And I will make sure that the doctor puts an extra stitch there so your insides don't come out. And these children really appreciate that. You can see actually shoulders drop. So explaining it in a manner that they understand and explaining those things that I know that worry them, but they don't even know how to express it, okay? So they need time also where to study. Give them one place to study. So if they're playing, their video games in a certain place, well, that's where they know how to do video games. So make sure that if they're studying, they have one place they go to do it, that they are responsible for their assignments and all their school supplies so that they take care of them. So you don't have to replace it hundreds and thousands of times, right? Pencils and pens and paper and tape and all that stuff costs money. Also, some parents believe in it to give an allowance, a little bit of money for doing things, and getting them done without you asking. It is a good opportunity. Not all parents do it, but then they give them a reward. Let's go to the movies, okay? But whatever it is, given an allowance of some sort. And now your adolescents. I think adolescents are difficult because this is somewhere between being a kid and being an adult. And especially the younger ones, it's very hard, to be able to communicate because they want to do more things than they should. It's just them. So adolescence, you start with the appearance of those secondary sex characteristics, and it ends when they stop growing and they become emotionally mature. Well, some kids never become emotionally mature. You have adults that are not, they're still immature, but that's what the description says. So it is early, middle, and late because of the different changes that do occur when you are thinking about adolescence. So Erickson talks about a sense of identity. What does that mean? Well, the identity could be their body image. What do I look like? Do I have pimples? Am I fat? Am I skinny? Do I have curly hair and I want straight hair? Do I have freckles? It could be all these things. All of the body image is part of their identity. Also, it's getting into the sexuality. Do I like girls? Do I like boys? Do I like both? Do I like none? It's all part of it. Also, I'm going into high school soon. What do I want to be when I grow up? right? All of these things are difficult and all about trying to establish the identity for these children. There are more times separated from the family. You have sleepovers and you go away with your best friend on vacation sometimes. And starting with intimacy, this is starting kissing and hugging, and who else knows what's going on with these adolescents and what age they're starting to do things, but they start doing it. And again, that career choice, what are they going to do when they grow up? The challenges of adolescence is they're going through rapid physical and physiologic changes. In pre-adolescence, it's a 2-year period. They grow 25% of their entire height during pre-adolescence. So they could grow, 6 inches, 8 inches, and all of a sudden they've gone from this tiny little kid to this, quote, grown-up looking person. And it's part of understanding I'm now bigger. You need to give them the privacy. They deal with a lot with social stresses and pressures. It could be things like, getting good grades at school, or your best friend was talking to a boy that you wanted to talk to, and, you're upset with it. So it's a lot of that. Keeping an open communication with these adolescents is very important, especially for parents. As nurses, getting that open relationship with communication, can be difficult too. And you're going to say, well, how would you do that? Because we're adults, they're still adolescents. We're still the bad guys, right? They're going to tell them no, no, no. Well, I have found is get on their level somehow. Let's say you notice that they have earbuds in and they're listening to music. Find out what music they're listening to. Or you see that they've got, some of the really nicest new Nikes or Adidas on. Say, hey, where did you get those? I've been looking for those. So have you decided where college you're gonna go? So now you've opened a communication. And many times when you're working with adolescents, you are going to have the parents leave the room and you'll speak with them. And many of the times after you've opened this communication and you've listened, they're going to tell you things that they're not going to tell their parents. And do you have to tell parents? No. Unless what you tell them, what the adolescence is telling you could cause them or others harm, you don't have to tell, the parents what's been going on. Again, this is all about being more independent. I don't want mom to tell me what to do and how to do it. Adolescents, many of them don't get along with their parents because they want to put rules and they don't want it because they're an adult now. They're 16, they can do what they want. Again, their bodies are rapidly changing and now they've got these hormones flowing and intense sexual drives. So conformity is a strongest need of adolescents in society. How do I get what I want? I need to conform what society wants, and I'm going to get more. So Erickson, it's all about, the intimacy. It's all about identity, okay? Piaget is now they can figure out the underneath things, that abstract thinking. So, I really want to go away this summer on, this camp with my other friends, and I got to figure out how can I get it done. So making a deal with mom, if you give me this many dollars per week, I'll make sure I mow your lawn, or I'll do this or that, and getting enough so they can go to camp, or getting that privilege because they've worked for it. And then Freud, of course, intimacy, sexuality, it's all about the genital age. As I said, adolescents, girls, it starts with girls between 10 to 13. It starts with puberty. And as I said, the boys are going to be 2 years behind. And we can monitor the sexual type of changes with Tanner stages of sexuality. Starting with girls, it's, breast buds is first thing that happens. And then with boys, it's testicular enlargement. So these are things that we know that will happen. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to show us what's going on, but you could ask what you think what's going on here. In puberty, there are equal amounts of, that testosterone androgens and the estrogen on these children. So these are all the changes that start to go on. It's a long thing, but you start from this pudgy short kid and everything grows and the face matures, and the body gets rounded and curved, et cetera, et cetera. Metabolism changes, big changes. The age of puberty does vary. And as I said, in girls, it's earlier than boys. And they say the growth spurts is going to occur by 18 years of age. One of the things that happens is they get weight gain because now they're getting bigger and they need more muscle to go on these bigger limbs. Because they're gaining weight and thin arms and legs, they look sort of gawky and gangly and awkward, right? But then they start to gain the weight and fill out. We know, again, pimples, sweat glands, very active. This hormone, these oily skin, acne are extremely common. Their hair starts to grow on their face, their chest, their axilla, pubic areas. This is their physical. Their shoulders are getting bigger. And then their voice, all of a sudden, it'll drop right down, right? It's like, oh my goodness. I'll say to my girlfriend, had her son, and all of a sudden I picked up the phone and he was 14 and the voice was like a man. I'm like, is this you, Mikey? I said, my goodness, your voice has changed, but it's just part of it. And in tanners, as we look at it, the genital size increase, the pigment changes, erection, and then there's nocturnal emissions. Boys at night, they could, come in their sleep is what it's called. And it's important, just like we check breasts in girls monthly, boys should check their testicles to look for lumps and bumps. So girls, all their puberty changes occur between 6 months to 2 years old. And we know girls with pubertal changes, we know that the onset of menstruation, menarche, we know when, they're going through puberty because they have the outward flow. Then of course, between 12 to 13 is normal. It can be earlier, but they call that earlier. And there's reasons for that sometimes. Their fat goes to their hips, their thighs, their breasts, and their energy, their activity, and nutrition are really important. Now, if a child is not getting proper nutrition because they think they're too fat, or those anorexia children, they're not going to get their menstruation. So important for good nutrition, good rest. And these are the stages of Tanner's maturity that I was talking about. So you go from, a boy who has, a small penis, small testicles, and no hair, goes to a bigger penis, bigger testicles, and more pubic hair. And girls, they go from little pubic hair to more, from breast buds, to breasts. And this is part of the stages of Tanner's sexual maturation. And I wrote them all down here so that you have an idea. Number 1 is nothing, and it goes to stage 5, fully mature, and there's places in between, okay? Again, the sense of identity, and we know that their identity is molded by many people, parents, their peers, their boyfriends, girlfriends, all different people do mold it. Could be teachers in school. And their sense of intimacy is that, what I call that, trying and testing. I'm going to try this and test that. And remember, these adolescents do need information. As nurses, can we give them information if they want to be intimate on birth control pills? Well, we can give them information, but we cannot tell them not to do it or to do it. We can only offer information. cultural, spiritual considerations. This is again the family. And then, of course, that adolescence is going to make up their mind what they want to do also. And we know it's all about the values of the family. And most adolescents, because they want to get privileges, are going to do what the family says. But I'm not saying all of them will, because you do have those stubborn ones too. And they might have a different, concept, maybe from a peer, maybe from something they read or learned. As I said, body image is huge. If you feel good about yourself, you're going to portray that, take pride in it. So, they believe that if you have a little pudge roll hanging over the side of your jeans, everybody's looking, oh my God, look at that little pudge roll. Well, nobody's looking at everybody all the time. Everybody has imperfections, but teenagers really, really feel this way. And they want to feel good about what they can do. If they're good in school, they want to feel great about that. If they're good playing basketball, baseball, they want people to know. They take pride about that. And whatever their peer group is it the music group? Is it the sports group? Is it the whatever group? They want to fit in and look like those other peers. Peers, again, let's talk about that relationship again. So peer relationships help adolescents feel like they belong. It's their group, it's their homie boys in them. I call them the buddies in them. It's those kids that hang out all together. We know school does play an important role, but we know that adolescents want to be a part of a group, and there's little cliques that form in whatever area it is. And they know that you'll have one best friend. It's that close personal relationship of the same sex most of the time, okay? Very important. And we know that how an adolescent treats their best friend during adolescence is going to tell you how they're going to treat their whoever they're going to be with, their partner for life, what they're going to be like with them. If they're good with them and courteous, they'll be the same way in that relationship too. So Piaget, again, they are systemic, they're sequential, they're orderly. They know what they got to do, and they just done. And they're starting again to think about what I want, how am I going to get there? And this is the way Piaget is. Again, they're thinking and figuring things out. Older adolescents can look at a situation from different viewpoints. Sometimes you only see it one way. You don't see the other person's way, for instance. And sometimes it's an older adolescent that can tell you, but wait, did you think about this? And then, of course, the abstract thinking, emerges. Remember when an adolescent speaks to you, sometimes, let's say a young girl comes in, urinary tract infection. It's her third in the last 8 months. So I need to know about what's going on while you get them. So that's on one concern. And again, it could be all about sexuality. So trying to get them open up, it's going to be your difficult. As nurses, to empathize with these children. I think being an adolescence is one of the hardest stages of life, because you don't know where you're going yet. And pretty soon you're going to be on your own. You have to be a grown-up. And you can start to see what that means because you've listened to your parents. They know their own values and they know their actions, good or bad, what's going to come from them. But they also understand people are different. Other people have different values and different actions. Sexual behavior is you become acquainted with the opposite sex or same sex, depending, whatever you want. That's, the adolescent's choice today. It's not looked down on like it did 20 years ago, because, it's a normal thing for this child, and to, try to accept that as parents. Dating, they go in groups, they go couples, or, sometimes they go alone. These things are all normal. Of course, there's going to be experimentation, and we know that pregnancy can occur. And that's why I said with these children, these adolescents, if they're coming into a hospital or doctor's office and you see things occurring that could be coming from sexual contact, to talk with them to make sure that they understand about, condoms and birth control pills and preventing sexually transmitted diseases, because it's something that happens. And it's because they don't know about protection or they don't know where to get it. So as nurses, these are some things that we should help the adolescents with if you feel that's something that's going on. As I said, talking sex education is difficult. Many of them are going to say, yeah, I don't do that. And they could be totally active. Remember, if we're talking to them, the difference between a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old, put it on a level that they understand, and if this is a child that's now pregnant, make sure that they're aware of what's going to be going on and what they need to do and the birth, and letting them talk about it. Of course, you always talk, when we're talking sexuality, of course, you're going to say abstinence is the best thing. But again, only give information on that contraceptive. You don't give your opinion. They need to make their own opinion, okay? We know if adolescents are taught early, we know that they are going to be more protected, right? Whether it's from disease, whether it's from pregnancy, hopefully. Does it have to do with they're going to have sex more than the people who are not being taught? No, they both do, but at least they'll be more safe. It's sometimes sex education, you have to say, well, I'm different. I like girls. I don't like boys. That's something that could come out. Adolescents are in experimental stage, and that's just what they need to do. It doesn't mean that if they have a relationship, a girl and a girl and a boy, that, they are going to be that for life. It's just experimentation as adolescents. Parenting an adolescent is very difficult for both parents and the adolescent. Excuse me. Parents don't want to let the children go, but children, these adolescents, also want to do what they want when they want to do it. And they're afraid to talk to their parents. Many are. I'm not saying all, but many are about sexuality and the need for birth control, or, maybe some of the kids are doing drugs or smoking, and what do I need to do? And they're confused. So at least open up that communication and be there for the children when they're ready to speak. So warning times about things that are going on with your adolescents. Now, many times today, we've got cell phones and you can look up anything there. Also, it could be computers at home. Maybe they're looking at websites they really shouldn't be. And that's not uncommon with adolescents. So if you see your adolescent up during the day, early hours of the morning, when you're asleep, something's going on. And if they're making phone calls, you should find out. I know that most adolescents don't want you checking histories on computer, and most adolescents know how to clear their browsers, but it's something that maybe we could tell the parents to do. Nutrition deficiencies are more common, and why? Well, they're busy. They're getting up, going to school, going to sports, going to their clubs, going out, meeting their friends, meeting at the mall. They don't have time to eat. They get a bottle of water and a snack bar and they go. And they don't want to spend their money on food. They'd rather do something else with it. So nutrition will be less. So remember, nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. They're not getting it. So making sure that these children know that, they can have low levels. And it's something as nurses we would be looking for if we know that child's not eating well. Some children are vegetarian. It's family, is what they're taught there. We know if they are in sports that they need nutrition if they're out playing basketball and in practice from 3:30 to 5:30 every day and running. So if they don't have enough nutrition, they're going to have low muscle energy stores and have cramps, and all of these things can happen. And caffeine and alcohol deplete water. So water should be taken in by these children at a regular basis. And steroids are really bad at this age because it is detrimental to bone growth, could make an adolescent shorter. Hygiene is they are bathing more frequently. They're getting body piercings. My son came home with a piercing in his tongue and I wanted to kill him. I'm like, who did that? You're 16. Nobody should be doing that. I just wanted it, Mom. And of course it got infected. And of course, that's what he told me. And then I had to do all my nursing care there. Dental health, very important. Many times they forget to brush their teeth. So remember encouraging dental care. I know as a young girl, going out and sunbathing, you think that being tan, I think you look cuter, right? You look better when you're tan and we have that nice little glow to you. Remember, sunscreen, protecting your eyes, very important, preventing skin cancers. As I said, one of the most common unintentional accidents in all age children is motor vehicle. Remember, they're starting to drive now. So now they're driving, having accidents. Still, they can be run over and they could be in the cars with accidents. So it's a big chunk of unintentional accidents. So trying to prevent them is the best. That's why, you have, car safety, driver's ed in high school for the younger kids driving. They should know how to swim and they should practice water safety. And remember football, it's, really a lot of hitting. So these children should be stretched and wearing proper equipment so that they're not going to get injured in ways that they shouldn't be. So the female athlete triad of a safety. So eating disorders. They have a disordered eating, amenorrhea, and osteoporosis. You see this with a young woman. They're not getting their period by age 15. They need to be questioned about their nutrition. And how would we question them about their nutrition? Well, tell me what you ate, like a diary, at least a 24-hour diary, like what's going on? We know there's anorexia nervosa. They eat nothing and they exercise incessantly. And then bulimia nervosa, which is eating like everything and vomiting it up as soon as they possibly can. So both of them are a lack of all the vitamins and minerals and nutrition, and it causes that bone to be brittle, that osteoporosis. So another thing with adolescents is one of the common problems is drug addiction. Now, the one thing about drug addiction is you get a kid into, let's say you're working in that emergency room and you get an adolescent come in, finding out how did they use the drug? What was it and how they use it? Was it IV? Was it nasal? Was it a pill? All of these things will make a difference in the care of them. We know that drugs are out there, and a lot of them, because of peer pressure, are going to be using them. So remember, if we as nurses are educating, that's the best thing we can do today. So adolescents are really prone for mood swings. Now, if this wasn't normal for that child, they've been this calm child all along, we're going to do what we call PACE. We're going to assess the parents, the peers, and, smoking any pot, alcohol, automobiles, cigarettes, and education. So if two or more of these letters are a problem, this is a child who could be at risk for drug abuse. So there needs to be a referral made, whether it's outpatient, inpatient, whatever, the physician decides. Many times drugs are used for depression. They're depressed, so they decide that they're going to, use something because they want to escape. It could be sometimes you're going to see this child and not know something's going on, but then all of a sudden they're going to become withdrawn. They're not going to, their appearance will go down. They're not doing well in school. These are things that needs to be looked at. As a school nurse, these are things I would pull a child in to ask what's going on. And any threat of suicide, whether it's they say the friend wants to commit suicide or they want to, this must be taken seriously, because many of the times adolescents go through severe depressions and they are at risk for suicide. It's one of the biggest causes of death besides motor vehicle accidents. So the school nurse can help by recognizing it, keeping open communication, and have those hotlines around. If you need help, have them posted on every board. And then, of course, looking at what's going on, what's happening, having some sort of system that those teachers know how to get the information to them so they can get them help. And of course, referrals as they need to. As I said, pregnancy happens. Remember, they're adolescents. They're going through identity crisis, and they're in that, sexual experimentation. So some of the risk factors, how old are they, when they come pregnant? I've seen infants born at 10 and 11-year-olds. I've seen that in my career in the newborn ICU. Again, remember, adolescents don't eat well. So we need to know their nutritional intake. We also need to know their sexual activity. Is it one person? Is it many? I mean, remember, sexually transmitted diseases. And then, do they have a doctor? Can they get to healthcare? And if not, we need to find out as school nurses, get them to somewhere. So unplanned pregnancy is that confirmation, and then focusing that newborn as real. In the beginning, they don't see it, they don't understand it, maybe a little nausea, they don't get it. But all of a sudden, their bellies get big. Now, this is real. And then, of course, they're having the baby, preparation to have that baby, and then having, the delivery. So approaches, how do you approach them? Well, open that line of communication, like I said. With sort of listening music you're listening to. You're going to go to school. What do you want to be? All those things. Open it up. Make them feel comfortable, and then provide the privacy. Maybe it's without parents. And then ensure that you will not tell the parents and be respectful of that. Remember, adolescents, sometimes they can act out and be crazy. It's because they don't know what's happening and they're scared. And rebellion is they want that independence. I don't want to come in before midnight. I mean, come on, Mom, it's Friday night. Let me stay out till 1, and we know just staying out late is just getting into more trouble. As nurses, having the parents understand to try to sit down and talk with their adolescent and come to some sort of compromise, to listen to them, can help in that open relationship. So healthcare teaching should include about nutrition, their dental care, personal care, how to take care of those body piercings. I mean, I wish somebody would have taught my son about the tongue before it became infected. Prevention of accidents, substance abuse, and being at control of themselves, and risk-taking behaviors. They tend to do things that they wouldn't have done before because, I'm an adult now. Money and time management, they're going to get a little money. What are they going to do with it? And as you're speaking these health teachings, if you use open-ended questions, they're going to be wanting to respond to you. So I love these little sayings here. Mother of teenagers know why animals eat their young, because wow, they're pretty hard. It says, I'm a typical teenager. I have a messy room. I'm moody. I spend most of my time on the internet and I go to bed late. I mean, these are things that you will say for sure. Long chapter. Did I lose you? No? You like the stories?
You lost me 45 minutes ago.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard. So any questions yet?
No.
Okay, let's go and do our Kahoots, all right? And then we're going to do our quiz. Oh, my internet's being fun today, huh? There we go. Now, if you haven't, remember to put your name and your campus into the chat box. So I have it there in case I'm confused. I can reach out. I want everybody to get credit where you need it, okay? Again, at any time you have, please stop me. All right, here we go. I think there's like 24 of them. Growth and development and immunization. What stage of Erickson development is in preschool? I think you've all just did your discussion questions, so it's a lot. Remember, they want to do things, but sometimes they're held up, so then they feel guilty about it. So that is Erickson's initiative versus guilt. What is a positive outcome for a toddler in Erickson developmental stage? So at this time, toddlers have learned sometimes to not do what they want to do. They're starting to understand a little bit of self-control. They're throwing that sippy cup on the floor and like mom says, okay, enough, no more of that. So they exercise self-control. Very simple, but it is some self-control. What month does an infant have anxiety with strangers? And that's about at 8 months old. 6 months still a little bit early, but at 8 months, they're pretty alert. And all of a sudden, they're going to try to go back to mommy or whoever's their caregiver because they don't want to go with anybody else. So that's stranger anxiety. True or false? An infant rolls from the back to front in the 3rd month. You know, they lift their head, they roll from belly to back, back to front. Then they're on their knees, they crawl, and then they creep, and then they walk. No, they're going to do that about 5 months, okay? So by 5, this is the front to the back is by 3 months. Going from the back to the front is harder for them, but on their belly, they can sort of roll and it goes easier. So it's just stages of development there. It's gross motor. The anterior fontanelle closes at what? We have anterior and posterior fontanelle, the soft spots. And it's about 18 months. So the posterior, the one in the back, it's about 2 months, and that's the difference. And why do we need to know these things? Well, what if it closes early? The brain can't grow, right? Or what if it hasn't closed and it's wide open still? Well, why? Is there water on the brain? It needs to go look out why. That's why we learned these sort of things. True or false? The sphincter control is maintained in 30 months. They can control their sphincter at 30 months. And that's about right. We know that an infant or a toddler who's ready to be potty trained for their urine should be able to hold it for 2 hours. Once they can hold their urine for 2 hours, they're ready for potty training. Now they know it because bowel comes before urine. Toddlers obey easy commands at what months? Go get your shoes. Put your shirt in the laundry. Give me a hug. I like those better. And it's about 2 years old. At 2 years old, you can have them do little things for you, and they love to do those things. So at 2 years old, 24 months, they do simple commands. Assessing a 2.5-year-old toddler, what should the nurse report to the provider? Means what is wrong? So when they're born with big heads, okay, and small little chests. By the time of actually 1.5, you will see their head and their chest at least equal, if not the chest bigger. And again, if it's bigger, something's going wrong with the head. Just like the fontanelle, it needs to be investigated. As a preschooler parent, which is the best way to promote sleep? So you want it calm. So keep a little light there for them. Again, very relaxing activities before they go to bed, not out running around, playing video games, whatnot, reading a book, one-on-one time with mommy and daddy or one or the other, and that dim light. And then they'll go to sleep. They're calm. A preschool child should consume an average of 1,800 calories a day. It's a lot, isn't it? I think that's why we have whole milk with extra fat, right? For these children, and we don't do low fat because they need calories. And the answer is absolutely true. They need that much. It's not mean they all, as toddlers, they don't get it because they're picky eaters. But by preschool, they do need those calories because their mind is working and they're starting to learn so much. The nurse is assessing a 6-month-old child. What developmental skill should be expected? They should be able to sit alone. Now, they might have some support there at this age, but by 8 months, they're sitting totally unsupported, okay? They're not pulling themselves up to a standing position to about 9 months old, and then 9 to 11 months. And then by 1 year, they should be taking steps, whether supported or one step and fall, but they're starting to walk. Don't look at your kids. We have some kids walking at 9 months old. An RN prepares a Denver screening test for a 3-year-old. What's the purpose of this test? Remember, we're looking at things a kid does. How do they play? Do they play alone? Do they pay attention? Do they look at you with their eyes? These are all things that are being evaluated. Why? It's only to assess their development, okay? And if they're not where they need to be, guess what we do? We tell the doctor they're not doing this and that, and we order speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, whatever they need to boost them back where they need to be, because kids really catch up quickly. They're great. That's why I love kids. Which of the following is most important activity for a 5-year-old child? So squeeze toys are kids. Board games may be too much for them. Computer games are going to get frustrated unless they're extremely easy, but Play-Doh, they can do so many imaginative things with that. I mean, it's terrible, it's sticky, it gets everywhere, yes, but Play-Doh is actually the answer. True or false, at the toddler level, these kids prefer to interact with their own sex. Toddlers. We know school age are for sure. As Freud says, it's the same-sex peers. They can play with anybody. There's no, they don't understand girls and boys quite yet at toddler. Preschoolers, they start understanding the roles of males and females, but toddlers, they play with anyone. There's no discrimination. What year does the school-age child begin to lose their temporary teeth or baby teeth? And that's 6 years old. Very good. You were listening. Good job. Puberty in boys, which is the first manifestation of sexual maturation or the start of puberty. And that's testicular enlargement. Girls, breast buds, okay? The testicles get larger on boys and they get stretched and change colors, and then the breast buds for girls. Girls stop growing about 2 years after menarche. So 2 years after they get their period, they stop growing in height. And that's true. That is a true thing. I mean, maybe not you, but according to the book, it's 2 years after. That's the total height that they will be. What is not included in the male changes for the adolescent stage? So these are Tanner's stages of development, right? Tanner's sexual changes that you will see. And breasts, they don't get breasts. They get their voice goes, their genitals get bigger, and of course, produce sperm. Very good. What age group would have the tendency towards eating disorders? And it's mostly adolescents. Now, don't rule it out for school age, okay? It can happen, something to be looking for. It's a newer thing that has started in the school age. Adolescents, absolutely. But remember to take a peek at those school age children too. They might be teased so much that they do these crazy things. What is the first vaccination to be administered before a newborn baby leaves the hospital? Remember, newborn babies are born and they don't have an immune system except for moms, and that's going to leave them. So we give one at the hospital, usually, and then at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, they're given a lot of them so they can boost their immune system. And it is hepatitis B. DTaP is at 2 months. Polio is at 2 months. MMR is at 12 months old, okay? Children are at high risk for flu and should be vaccinated yearly, starting at what age? Remember I said they have no immune system. When do you think would be a good age to start? And this is 6 months. 6 months is a great time to start it, and that's what's recommended. And the infants actually do really well with it. What 3 diseases does the MMR vaccine prevent? Measles, mumps, and rubella. Good job. Nobody got caught up in the other ones. Good. Incoming college freshmen are sometimes required to get vaccinated against what disease? So they're going out and a lot more people around, children around, they're around the masses. So what do you think they need to be worried about? And it is meningitis, okay? Children should be getting the flu shot anyway. They don't meningitis shot until they're those teenage years because of now they're around so many more children. And last question. A mother calls the peds clinic to ask when her daughter will receive the varicella vaccine. What is varicella? It's chicken pox. and we give it at 12 months and 4 to 6 years. Now, let me tell you something about varicella vaccine. It is a live vaccine. So if you know it's a live vaccine, what are some of the contraindications to getting this? Well, if you are an immunosuppressed child, if you have a disease like sickle cell, cystic fibrosis, any of these, inherited things, you wouldn't be giving varicella live vaccine. Also, if you are on steroids, prednisones, those Oropred, any of those things we're given for croup, you cannot take it because you are immunosuppressed on steroids. So that's one of the things that I've heard questions in the med surg about. So I'm just telling you and warning you, that's one of the questions. Live vaccines also include steroids. Let's see how we did today. Number 3. Ms. Hall, R is number 2. Ari. I like that. Arf. And Lakeisha. And I have no idea how your name is said, and I'm sorry, I apologize.
Ileshka.
Ileshka.
It's an I and an L.
Ileshka. Okay, thank you. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to do our quizzes now. What I want you to do is to go to your modules and go to quiz 1 and click it.
Excuse me, Miss Betty. My Canvas is still showing that I'm in the other class, even though this is my class.
All right, Chris, which class is it? What day of the week?
Excuse me, can you say that again?
What day of the week is your class?
This is my class, but they have
No.
the Tuesday morning.
Tuesday, okay, I can set it. Don't worry. I take care of you. No problem. Tuesday morning class. Let me get you.
Miss Professor Bogart, mine
Yes.
too. I was supposed to be in your class, but they keep switching me to that class, and I already talked to the dean, but I haven't heard back from her.
Okay, Tuesday morning. Okay, I can take care of you. Not a problem. Just give me 1 second, everybody, because I want everybody to start on time. And as nurses, we never leave anybody behind. We always take care of each other. All right.
I see your email last day explained I couldn't
Yes.
keep you in Friday's section.
Okay, Chris, you're one of them. Christopher Jones. All right. And what was your name, ma'am? Who else needs the Tuesday class?
Pendrikia Hall.
Sorry, what is it?
Pendrikia Hall. HUL. I don't think I'm on here.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you are on the Tuesday class. Don't worry. I got you. You're both here. We're both going to get your quizzes done. See, you're lucky I am the lead, so I can do these things, okay? And put this.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Okay, being as though when I go into my module, it's still showing the other class.
Go in through the other class, and you're going to take your exam through the other class. It's no big deal.
Okay, one more question. So I didn't turn in the discussion because I thought that they was going to switch me back to your class and I would lose everything. So do you want me to still turn it in over there?
Do you have it here in this class?
My discussion?
Yeah.
I have it. No, you want me to turn it in now?
No, what I'm saying is you can turn it in that class, send me a message to say, I turned it that class, and I can score it for you. And then I can always keep track of it to make sure when you come back in the computer under me that I can give you credit for it. How's that sound?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to do extra work. No. I don't like that. All right, is everybody else ready to go? Does it show that it's ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna turn my volume off. Nobody talk over here, just only on chat now. Any problems, it's gonna be on chat so that we have respect for all the students, okay? When you are done with your quiz, you may go. I will get this posted up as soon as I get it here. So I'll be putting it on announcements like I normally do, okay? Next week will be another quiz, and remember your discussion question if you haven't done it already. And that's what this week's homework is, okay, guys?
So when we're done with our quiz, we're done for the day?
You are done for the day,
Okay.
yes, ma'am. And I wish you good luck. Go ahead, click on it, open it up. 15 minutes, only one way, you can't go backwards.
Ms. Bogart, sorry to interrupt.
Just tell them I is too.
Chat.
Ms. Bogart, I sent you a message in the chat.